What up, everybody? Hey, welcome to the Moving the Military podcast episode number 8. And I'm going to sit here because 8 is great. And Dina, well, first off, I'm Matt Grudel, co-founder of Moving the Military. I'm here with the hostess with the mostest, the way I introduce her, 8 episodes in a row now. And I'm going to say 8 is great, Dina, because damn, we got some consistency going on right now.
I know. What you guys don't know about us, because you're not experiencing that side of us, is we are the ultimate visionaries. We have a lot of really great ideas that we don't actually stick to. So even getting to episode number 3 was like a milestone. So we're excited to be here for our 8th episode, 8 weeks in a row, hitting our commitments, walking the walk, talking the talk, doing what we teach you guys to do. So we're here 8 weeks in a row, Matt. I'm
Yeah,
excited.
and here's the thing. And please, I'm offensive a little bit. Hey, if you're a young officer or ever were in the service, hey, we're like that young lieutenant at times. It's just like the good idea fairy, just spreading vision and good ideas with no execution. And yet, man, when your purpose grows, your consistency grows, and our purpose is right here with what we're doing. And that kind of talks about today. So I'm going to slow down the pace and lead into today. So today, we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about invisibility, right? We're going to talk about invisibility with the military agent, right? Or the military affiliated real estate agent, and the problem of invisibility, because they're not bad agents. They're not lazy agents. They're good, hardworking, military-friendly agents. And I'm just going to say it right there. The words I said, military-friendly, is probably and potentially one of the reasons you are absolutely invisible. And so today is a little bit about invisibility, Dina.
Yeah. Before we get started, we want to make sure that you guys are listening to this podcast through the right set of filters. We are not cracking jokes at you. If you do or have posted any of the things we share today, please don't take offense to it. Just take it as a chance to level up and understand that there are, they say success leaves clues. Well, so does failure, and so does invisibility and all of the things we'll talk about. But I think it's important to remember we are not here to hurt your feelings. We are here to push and help you level up. And we're also here to help you get out of the sea of average. As they say, the army of average. We don't want you to be the army of average. That's why we say things that you won't hear other people saying. And that's why I think a lot of times in our podcast, people are hearing things that go against the grain or go against what they're taught, because we are all taught in an average way. We are taught to be average agents. Our brokerages and our offices teach us to get to average, but nobody shares what does it actually take in every tiny little adjustment to get to elite. And we are here to help you get to elite. So don't take
And I
offense.
love the fact that you said that, right? Let's get some clarity around it. Yeah, it's about elevation, right? We're here to elevate you. We're here to move you past comfortable. Now, there's nothing wrong
We're
with
here to
comfortable.
move the military, right?
That's it. Move the military past comfortable, because we all know, every single one of you, when you're comfortable, if you're a high performer, you end up feeling caged, and that's not what we want. So, Dina, as we talk about invisibility, because our passion, our mission, what we do right here in Moving the Military is help, right? Aid, elevate, educate, coach, mentor, help move our military affiliated agents from invisible to inevitable. So I'm going to start. I'm going to put you on the spot. You have no idea what questions I'm going to ask, and I love it this way. So here's the question. Why do you think so many let me change that. Why do you think so many great agents who serve military families are still basically unknown, invisible in their own markets?
That's a great question. And how should I frame this? I want to take this a couple of directions. So I might go in a circle for a minute, but I promise I'll make it make sense. You said something that I just want to pause on. You said so many great agents, but my first question that I would have to anybody watching, and I would encourage you to write this down if you do in fact want to level up, is are you a great agent or are you a great person? Because I think sometimes we say that people are great, whatever, agents, lenders, blah, blah, blah. But what we actually don't know is any of the business side of that human. We know that the person is a great person. And so we call them we'll just stick with agents since that's what we're talking about. We call them great agents, But we don't actually we've never been on the receiving end of their real estate services. So I would even question, how do you even know if, and we don't have to chase this rabbit trail, but I think you should write it down if you're listening. How do you actually know if you're a great agent? Most people walk around saying, even on these Facebook groups, they'll recommend people and say they're a great agent. Well, how the hell would you know that? You've never referred them business, you've never bought a home from them, you've never been on the agent receiving side of their business. So, what I think we first stop on for just a second is, how do you even know you're a great agent to begin with? But we'll move that to the side and just keep rolling. Assuming that we think that they're a great agent, but in fact, they're just a great human being, I think we also have to make sure that everybody knows that's not enough. Being a great person and being a hard worker is not enough to being an elite or great real estate business owner. There are so many places, how, Matt, like when you were coaching people in your offices, people would say, well, how do I know what's not working in my business? And you say, well, do you track your metrics? Do you track, you know, calls logged, hours logged, conversions? There's all these places. So we'll stop here for a second. People would come to me when I was running my team, and I'm sure came to you as you were running your brokerage, and said, I'm off track. How do I get back on track? And you say, well, what are your numbers? And they're like, I don't know. And they don't even know what to track. And then you go down the path of, how many calls did you attempt? How many dials did you make? Okay, how many people picked up? How many of the people picked up did you actually speak to? How many of the people you speak to actually offered to meet with you? How many people that offered to meet with you bailed? How many people showed up? There's all these different gates, right? Like in that one question. So it's such a loaded question of how do you know if you're a great agent? Well, what are the gates to being a great
Well,
real estate?
and I love that, because I will probably say 85 to 90%, and that's a high number, and it's
And it's
statistical.
true.
Yeah, I would go to attract a talent appointments with somebody, and I would guarantee you 85 to 90% of the people I sat across with had no idea what their numbers were until I presented them, until
Well,
I asked the right questions.
and more importantly, they didn't even know what to track.
Yeah.
And we're not going to talk about
No.
tracking numbers, but the point of this statement is, if you don't know what are all the gates that go into being an elite real estate business owner, there's no way that you can know where things are broken. So we're going to go back to the original question.
Well, and I'll say one thing before that.
Right.
Authority requires a reputation, and your reputation has to be that you're a good human, but your reputation also has to be one around the statistics and the proof in the numbers of what you have actually done. And it's not all good numbers. It can be, hey, the number of times you actually told people to walk away.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think the first step is pause this and sit down for just a second and think about, what are all the gates, much like we talked about the gates for conversion. What are all the gates and the places where you could be going right or wrong on your path to being an amazing business owner? Because to get back to the actual question. You said some version of, why do we think so many great agents are invisible? And the reason I think so many great humans, I'm not going to say agent, but I think the reason so many great humans are invisible in our niche, like our military niche conversation, is because in order to succeed in the military, you were required to follow someone else's blueprint, someone else's orders. To be an amazing real estate business owner, you have to create that for yourself with your own voice, with your own value proposition, with your own set of value. That's problem number one. I think problem number two, which could be reorganized however you want it to be, is that people think that hard work is enough. There are so many people, you and I have both coached so many agents one-on-one in this community. And when we say that, we know a lot of people will say that, and what they really mean is they've had group coaching or they've had a class they sold that thousands of people took. No, like Matt and I have actually set 1-to-1 for 30 paid minutes at a time, being paid to coach people.
For
So
thousands of hours.
thousands of hours. And so we've actually seen under the hood of thousands of your businesses over the years. And the thing I think that is the biggest reason that they are invisible is because they think that the roll up your sleeves, put in the work, double down, my husband calls it brute force and ignorance. Yeah, Matt too. And by the way, since we're new with every one of you, Matt and I are not married. For whatever reason, when we were running the other organization, people thought we were married. We are not.
I think it's
Uh,
because I would say, well, this is, hey, well, this is Dina Watson, my better half.
Better half, yeah. You stopped saying that when people thought we were married. But anywho, now I'm the hostess with the mostest. But I think that people think that hard work is enough. And unfortunately, you are not rewarded for just hard work alone in
No.
real estate, Matt.
No, you're not.
That's
Your hustle, your grind, your ability to, and you guys are, this is going to relate with everybody, your ability to embrace the suck day in and day out, right? To carry another boat, right? That is not rewarding you in the actual real estate, right? Showing up and just spinning your wheels and doing the hard work, and you have to do that, but that's not enough, right? That doesn't position you in the spot that you need to be positioned. Because I go back to the first thing you said, and I think a lot of times the problem is that a lot of our good and great real estate agents, they're invisible because they're not positioned. They
well
have
because they have their
proximity.
because they have their head down and they're just grinding, right? Because that's what you guys have been taught to do is put your head down, go to work. Well, that doesn't work here. Like it's a part of the equation, but it's probably 15 to
Well, and I
20%.
think it's also the vague language, right? So you say things like, I work with military, I do VA loans, I'm military friendly, I'm near this base. That's proximity. That's
Yeah.
not positioning. And there is a huge difference in the level of visibility and being seen versus proximity and positioning. So, like you said, a lot of it's positioning as well.
Yeah, I think it's positioning as we kind of positioning and all of that would be in that recipe that I was talking about earlier, but I don't think people actually understand all the parts of it. So I hope we clear some of that up here today through our conversation. But I think the biggest reason is that they've been taught so can we like go down a bunny trail for a second?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bust out the shovel. Let's dig.
Okay. So most what I have realized and recognized is that most people who join the military, and if this is not you, it's okay. Don't take offense or don't point out to me that not everybody, I know not everybody, but an overwhelming majority of people who join the service, specifically people who are enlisted, which make up the biggest portion of the military, are people who come from, and I say this with love, small town America, super pull 'em up by the bootstraps, paycheck to paycheck, if the paychecks even come, type of environments. And I'm not saying that was your family situation, but most people who are joining the service as enlisted humans, and Matt, you can speak to this more than I, what I have noticed is that they come from sometimes not, but most of the time, really hardworking, lower middle class families or lower class families and environments. I mean, maybe not your family, but like my husband's that example. He wasn't like lower middle class, but his environment was. And so you think because of what you've been taught as you grew up that you put in the hours, you work your 40 or 50-hour weeks, you work for the man rewards you, right, for putting in the time. And so what you're ingrained is that time in and effort in equals the same proportion of what comes out of the other end. In real estate, that's not the game you're playing, and nobody notices it. So,
No, I 100% agree with that because that's what we do, right? We go in, we show up. It is, it's a clock in, clock out, and I should be paid for the hours that I clocked in and clocked out. And yet, in real estate, you're not paid by the hours you clock in and clock out. In fact, I would even challenge the wording that we all use that time is money. In real estate, time is not really money.
time is not money.
Time is not money in real estate. You're not getting paid by the hour, right? You're getting compensation based on the transaction and seeing it all the way through. And I love the thing that me and you talk about all the time, and we probably talked about one of the past podcasts, that good, that transaction's done. You just entered the unemployment line. Just because you put 8 hours in, you're not getting paid.
Yeah, it's an entirely different thought process. And there's a book that I recommend to everyone who comes from the type of environment that I just shared. It's called The Psychology of Money. If you've never read it, and I don't recommend books that I've not read, just so y'all know. We will never talk about something that we haven't done or read ourselves here. But The Psychology of Money is an amazing book to help you understand what is your thinking around the relationship between time and money and where do you get those thoughts. And so I think the one reason that most people in the military space either don't make it in real estate or stay at the level they are, probably like they're making sub 100 grand every year pretty predictably, is that that's what you've been conditioned. I mean, even from the time you were little, if you came from that environment all the way through the military, you put time in, you get money out. And, like, I'll use my husband for an example. I'm going to put him on blast. For the last week and a half, I've been out for surgery. So we pre recorded episode 7 2 weeks ago. We released it last week, but I've been out until Tuesday of this week. And he's been getting paid by Uncle Sam. And guess what he's been doing for the last 2 weeks? Checking in with me and golfing all day. So whenever you can do that, because that's what is rewarded in the military, right? Is if I want to take leave, I can do whatever I want. Well, you can't do that here. And so if he were to get into real estate right now, and even what happened with you, Matt, you have to unlearn in order to relearn the right way. But people don't get told the honest truth by people who aren't afraid to lose
No.
them. So here we
No,
are.
it goes back to something that you heard me say, the black coffee theory, man. Sometimes, man, you got to drink that coffee black and bitter and unlearn some things, man. It doesn't always need to be added sugar and milking to sweeten up, because sometimes sweet isn't good. Dina, I think one of the other things that make good and great agents invisible is the lack of assets, right? It's the lack of assets, things that
We don't
are
mean money. We don't mean
no,
money.
yeah, we don't mean money. We're talking about the things that if you were to disappear for 30 days, right? And would your market still continue to speak about you? If you weren't posting, right? Because posting is not an asset. If you weren't posting, if you weren't doing those things, if you didn't show up, would the assets still continue to speak for you? Because if not, you're just invisible.
Yeah, and let's kind of open that for a minute. So, reason number 2, like big reason number 1 is the psychology of work. If we'll just put a bow on that, like the psychology of what success is. Reason number 2 is that, and this kind of comes out of reason number 1, but reason number 2 of what Matt's sharing is a lot of us, until we have a different experience outside of real estate, don't realize that you have to have collateral. I'll call it collateral. We call it assets inside of moving the military, but for the podcast, I'll call it collateral. There's nothing tangible that people can like find about you before they find a relationship with you. So, for an example, a lot of times we market our services like, okay, if you want to buy or sell or invest, let me know. I'm going to give you a statistic that is 100% true, that somewhere between 6 and 7% of our country moves in any given year. So, what we think is marketing is call me if you want to buy, sell, or invest. But if only 6% of people need your product in any given year, every other brick and mortar business around you would go out of business. Think about that. If only 6 to 7% of any marketplace needed your service, would you even start a business?
Well,
No.
no, you
So,
wouldn't, because 94% is gone.
yeah, the 94% of your market is unavailable to you because they don't need what you sell. So if all you're selling is buyer, seller, investor strategy sessions, first time buyer, whatever, you're failing at your job or your business and you don't necessarily know why. And it's because there's nothing, as Matt says, that is out to educate the public about you before they actually need you. For an example, why every PCS cycle does every military affiliated agent in the marketplace, instead of commenting, let me know or DM me in these Facebook comments, not have a really sexy local PCS guide that is dropped in those conversations? Because then anyone can look at it. If you think about it, if one person asks about services or what's it like to live there, I saw one yesterday that said, I'm moving and I'm scared because I don't necessarily know where the best schools are in Clarksville, Tennessee. At that moment, did they ask for real estate help? No. But could I drop my PCS guide and say, hey, I've interviewed the principals at the top 5 schools in the city. Check this out and put the link in there. Yes, I can do that. And more importantly, everyone else in that Facebook group that I don't know about, that's like a ghost to me, can now look at that and then make a relationship bridge with me, right? So every one of these things is a bridge to the relationship, but we think that we can't put something out into the world to be helpful to the community unless it's about real estate specifically.
Well, and we think that, well, a lot of times, a lot of agents that we talk to all the time, they think that visibility is the fact that somebody recommends them. Cool. You got a recommendation. Cool. But if they're not in the room that you're not in, and you're not in the room that they're not in, well, then you have no visibility. See, that asset and that collateral is what speaks volumes for you when you're not in the room. This is how you actually become visible and become inevitable, because your assets are, like you said, your collateral. No assets, no collateral equals no authority gravity. You don't have that gravitational pull of people coming to you because you're waiting on a recommendation. That isn't being invisible. I hate to say it, my friends, but just because someone recommends you does not mean you're visible. It's things like assets and positioning that have you known no matter if you're in the room or not.
Well, let's stick with that for a minute. So let's say you're in a Facebook group, because most real estate agents know that there are tons of leads in these Facebook groups.
And God forbid we all try to win the Facebook popularity contest, because 99.9% of you are not winning it.
Well, and you're not going to. So let's stick with the Facebook conversation. So let's say someone comes in and says, "Hey, I'm moving to Clarksville, Tennessee, and I'm looking for advice, whatever." How many in that moment? I want you to think about being in the position and in the seat of the person who made the post. Okay, so I am totally overwhelmed. I live in Colorado Springs, 2 time zones or 1 time zone away, all the way across the country. I'm thinking about all these different things. It's a 20-hour drive. I have an elderly dog and a son. And like, think about what that person's thinking through before they made that post. Okay. That's step number 1. Write that shit down, pause it, rewind what I just said. As I'm overwhelmed asking for help, and 28 real estate agents
Ding, 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 ding.
post, "Let me know if I can help you." Number 1, stop offering to be helpful and just go be helpful, okay? So that's lesson of this whole section of this podcast. Stop offering to be helpful. So everyone offering to be helpful. Ding, 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 ding. And I'm all of a sudden thinking, remember, in this conversation, I'm the poster. I'm thinking, how do I know any of the differences of all of these people? I have 28 options and now I'm paralyzed.
I'm already pressured. I'm already on a tight timeline. I already have an elderly dog. I got to figure it out. I'm already overwhelmed. And now do I actually have the time to interview? Ding,
There
ding,
you
ding,
go.
ding, 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 ding. I don't.
Yeah, do I have the time to go through all of these people? And all of these people are DMing me. I mean, you guys, y'all are straight savage. Stop it. You're DMing these poor people who are so freaking confused, and you're DMing them worthless shit. Like, "Hey, I would love to help you." Well, no crap. You get paid a commission to help somebody. And if you don't help this person, you don't get paid. They know that. The consumer knows this. Okay. So I'm going to get off my pulpit. Coming back to this person in her pajamas, sitting there crying because now there's 28 people who won't leave her alone 45 days before she has to move her whole life across the country. And then there's one. We're going to call you Mathena because you need to be a girl to be in this group today, Matt. So there's Mathena. And Mathena is the top military agent who wants to be inevitable, no longer going to be invisible, not going into the army of average in that Facebook group. And Mathena has the absolute sexiest, all-encompassing PCS move to Clarksville guide. And it includes things like daycare recommendations, pediatrician recommendations, where the parks are, how far from base, all the areas she's being seen online. And Mathena posts that shit and doesn't DM this lady. And Mathena says, you ready, Mathena, for what you say?
What am I saying?
Mathena said, oh, you got to say it in a female voice.
What am I saying?
Okay. Mathena says, "Hey, I'm sure all these other people are overwhelming your DMs right now. I don't want to add to the overwhelm. When you get a minute, check this out. It has the answers to probably questions you're not even asking in here. And I'm here if you need help understanding anything I've posted. Thanks." And then drops the link.
And here's the thing about the link. That link, and I'm going to drop this in there as well, that link needs to be mobile ready. Because Mathena, yeah, mobile, right? On your mobile phone, man. It's got to be, look, I'm 51 years old. I'm still carrying a pager, right? So it's got to be able to be looked at on your phone, because Mathena, being overwhelmed with her elderly dog, getting ready to drive across country, she's not pulling out a laptop. She's not grabbing a Mac, right? She's looking on her phone, right? And so it's got to be that as well.
Well, and also more importantly, if we're talking about assets to where you can follow up with this person, what Mathena is going to post as the link, you have to offer back up your email to access the link. So whenever, whoever this woman is, looks at it, we're not asking for her name, Quit asking for these people's phone numbers. They don't want to give it to you. Quit asking for their damn addresses. They don't need to give that to you. All you need is an email. So this person's going to put her email in there and then bam, instant download. That is what we call an asset. Because at that point, not only is this woman downloading that guide, all the other people who see it and find it interesting are also going to put their email addresses in there and download it. And then now what happens on the back end? You can now follow up with them on a drip campaign. And here I want to say this so clearly. On a drip campaign only around the purpose for which they downloaded that thing. So the drip campaign is not going to be 27 listings if this person downloaded it because they're looking for daycares. So all of the pieces of your asset need to have their own line of email follow-ups around the reason that it was downloaded, not general real estate information. She didn't ask for that. She asked for daycares. So we're not going to talk about houses if this person's asking for daycares in these emails. So that's what an asset is. That's how you go from being the army of average that was DMing her to being the one person who was actually helpful.
Well, here's the thing, that asset, that piece of collateral that you just now shared, guess what happens? It gets shared by her to somebody else. It gets shared to somebody else. It gets shared. This is the asset that makes you visible and inevitable because it's talking about you when you're not there. It's talking about your brand. It's talking about your authority. It's showing your reputation in rooms that you're not even in. Because I think one of the things that I love is that military friendly, and I'm going to go back to that. They keep saying they're military friendly. That's why you're invisible. Military friendly is a personality trait.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that again. Military friendly is a personality trait. Military authority, well, that's market positioning and assets, right? The collateral, right? The things that you were doing, not just a reputation or recommendation. That's how you become visible and seen. And so, Dean, I want to move on because I think me and you can
I
ride
could
this
talk
horse
about
all
this.
day long, right? This is our jammy jam, right? So I want to ask this question now. Matt, right? Matt Grudel, this badass dude in Colorado Springs, man. I'm listening to this podcast on the treadmill in my car, wherever I'm at, and I'm thinking to myself, well, hell, man, how do I even know if I'm invisible? Like, how would I know? I don't think I'm invisible. I got a good, comfortable, great business. If someone's listening doesn't think or isn't aware that they may be invisible, what should they actually look at? What could they test today to see their level of visibility?
This is a loaded question, so I'm going to do my best to make this short, although we have plenty of time. We have
We
30
do.
more minutes we could riff
Well,
on
I
this.
know.
So, first answer is if you are not, and I know y'all hate this, and I'm sorry, I don't make the rules. If you're not posting on social media multiple times a day, you're invisible on the internet. So first we have to separate these two things so no one gets their boxers in a bunch. So the first question is who are you trying to be visible to? You
Yeah.
have to answer that to
I think
answer
that's the
the
most important. I think that's the most important question, right?
right.
It's who you are actually tailored, positioned to help. Not who do you want to help, who are you actually tailored and positioned to help?
Yeah, so question number 1 is who are you wanting to be visible to? Because I can't answer the question, how do I know I'm invisible if I don't know who I want to be visible to? So when you answer that question, let's just say that you answered the way I did on the first podcast. I want to be visible to Green Beret special operator families at Fort Campbell, military base. Okay, perfect. The first question I have to ask myself, or the next question I have to ask myself is where are they viewing anything? Because then you have an impasse. You have like a fork in the road. Do I want to be visible on the internet or do I want to be visible in person or a combination of both? So in order to like gain market share and mind share in that market, you first have to gain mind share before you get market share. So write that down if you need to. So then we're going down the bunny trail of, okay, I want to be visible on the internet. Let's just go that direction because being visible in person is the easiest one to answer. How do I know I'm invisible? Well, because your ass doesn't show up to anything those people do. So clearly in person, you're invisible. So that side is pretty easy to answer, Matt. Like, well, do you go to any of their events? Do you go to any of their grand openings? I know there was a pet food store here that was just opened by a group guy and somebody says, well, how do you know? Well, he named it Legion Pet Supply. Like, that's a group dude, right? So I could go frequent that and now buy my dog food there. So am I visible there? Well, yeah, I go in person to that place. That one's easy. On the internet side, it gets a little more complicated because how do I know I'm invisible on the internet? Well, first question is, how frequently are you posting? Because as much as we hate it, the algorithm determines who sees your stuff. You don't determine. You could post all day and no one would see it. Like 1% of your friends list would see it because that's not the game that's played on the internet anymore. So, question number one is you have to get right with yourself on, am I actually posting quality content that those people care about? Am I answering questions that they have? Am I solving problems for them? If you are posting about yourself and your real estate services, you are invisible because they don't know you. So the only way they would find you is if they knew you, if you were only posting about your real estate services. So I'll say that again a different way. The question is, am I invisible on the internet? Here's the answer. If all you're posting is about your real estate services on your personal page, you're invisible to anyone who doesn't
It
need
doesn't
your real
already know.
estate services, who already knows you.
That's it.
Okay? Because of hashtag the way the internet works. It's not, don't shoot the messenger. Um, okay, let's say that I post about my dog. Okay, well, cool. Now you're visible about pets. Like, who cares? That's not what you're trying to sell houses for. The other way I would say, how do you know you're invisible is, let's say you're posting your ass off. Like you're just killing it. You're doing all the things. You're shooting this podcast once a week. You're chopping it up. You're posting it all over the internet. Has someone recently told you that you don't normally speak to, man, I see you everywhere? Okay. If you normally speak to them on the internet, the way the internet works is that they're going to see you everywhere. Okay. If you don't normally interact with them on the internet and they say, I see your stuff everywhere, you're visible. Now, you might not be to the level of visibility you need to sell real estate, but you're visible to people who don't normally interact with you. That's the easiest way to beta test this whole thing. The third thing I would consider is, are you visible in all the places that people look? Because the way that the internet works, if you post on social media, and I know this sucks, I'm so sorry, not my problem. If someone doesn't look on their phone within the 30-minute span of when you posted that, and you don't post again until 2 days from now, and they're also not on their phone at that time,
It's
okay,
buried.
is buried.
It's
Like,
buried.
it's so buried, right? And all your effort, most of you guys are posting middle of the day. Well, guess what people with an actual job are not doing? Scrolling social media within 30 minutes of when you post at 10 or 11 a.m. So you might want to move your stuff towards the end of the day when people are doom scrolling through their phone. So there's a few ways to test it. First of all, has anybody recently said they see your stuff? That's the easiest one. If no, you're probably not visible.
Well, I'll flip it a different way too. You could also, if you're asking yourself, am I visible? And we take the internet out of it, let's talk about inbound lead patterns, right? And I think one of the greatest questions would be this: are you chosen or are you interviewed? Right?
Yeah.
Because if
Good.
you're absolutely visible, right, and you're inevitable, man, people are just choosing you, right? They're not actually interviewing you. Are you competing or are you being requested? Because if you're visible, inbound leads are requesting to meet you. You're not competing in that Facebook popularity contest. You're not competing on the internet. You're not competing, right? And I think that's a great way to do it based on the inbound leads, right? And I love that question. Are you chosen or are you interviewed?
Well, and it's, are you visible and valuable?
Yeah.
Because you can be visible but not valuable and people are still interviewing you. So I love what you just said is like, am I being chosen? Am I visible and valuable enough where people are just saying, I want to work with you? If you are having to, how do I put this? In 2026, because this is when we're shooting this podcast, if you are still having every day to re-earn your business, you are not visible. You are
Yeah,
not a
you're
market authority.
you're invisible. You have no authority in the market, or you have limited authority. Let me just say that. You have limited authority because you have built a business, but not the authority that you actually could have.
Well, there's also a difference I think we could recognize that, like, there's like part of this where, are you an authority to your small group of friends? versus are you an authority in the market? We're talking about being an authority in the whole market. So you could be sitting here cussing at us, or like you might have already turned this off by now, saying, like, no, I have authority. Well, authority with whom? Do you have authority with your sphere? That's great, but that's not what we're discussing here. We're discussing, are you an authority in your marketplace? And if you're only an authority in your small sphere and no one else knows you, well, the answer is just pretty easy. It's no, you're not an authority in the market. You
I
might
think
have authority with your people, though.
I think the other thing you could do, right, if you really want to challenge your visibility is just ask yourself this question and put yourself like this. If I was to go into your market right now, Dina, if I was to go to where you're at right now and I was to ask, let's just say 20 people, right? If I was to ask 20 people, what does Dina absolutely in the military or in real estate specialize in? Would I get the same answer from everybody? If I got sporadic answers, well, then you're invisible because you don't have a clear message that is gaining authority that's talking about you in rooms that you're not in, right? So if I ask 15 people, what do you specialize in? And I got 15 different answers, man, number one, you don't have authority. And number two, you're still invisible.
Well, you don't even have to ask. Like, this was just popping in my head as you were talking. Let's say that you're wanting to be an authority online and you go into these Facebook groups and you don't see yourself being recommended in the popularity contest. There's your answer. Like, if the people who are making the recommendations aren't recommending you, you don't really even need to go take the poll. The poll's already being done for you every time someone asks for real estate in all these different groups. If your name is not mentioned, you
You're
are
invisible.
invisible.
Yeah.
Like, it's nobody knows who you are. And that's why it goes back to point number one. You can be, and I want you to hear our heart when we say this, you can be the most amazing human being with the biggest heart for the military, with the biggest level of work ethic, and the biggest desire to serve your people. And it is just not enough. Like, it's not enough if you're trying to build a big brand and a big business. If you want to build a lifestyle business that sustains your lifestyle, that's also not what we're talking about. You don't have to do all of this if you're wanting to sell 5 or 6 houses a year. But if you're wanting to crest like the 30, 40, 50 mark or beyond, you don't really have much of a choice because of the level of competition in the market. It's just you have to change what you're doing.
Well, and we want you to hear, and I think you said something key. We want you to hear our hearts and our passion, right? We know, right? We freaking know that right now we're causing friction. We know that we're speaking about things that most people don't talk about. We know we're ruffling some feathers out there. We're putting some of you in the mud. That's okay. Moving the military is about helping you get to that next spot, to elevate to where you want to be with your plan, and for you to gain positioning and authority to achieve all that you desire and more importantly deserve. So last question, Dean, as we kind of close this out, right? So if somebody listening, we gave so many great things, right? If somebody listening today was like, hey, I want to take a step today toward being visible. I want to take a step today to becoming inevitable. I no longer want to be invisible. What's one thing, just one quick thing, what could they do today, right now, after the podcast is done, hung it up, to go take that step?
This is how not scripted these calls are because I want to think about what is Matt, I'm going to ask you too here in a second. So I want you to be thinking as I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think about what's the most impactful thing, not just one thing. So I think the most impactful thing you could do, and you should do, and I normally don't should on people, so you should do this, is to research the questions people are asking and commit every single day to answering those questions. I think that if you're looking for the fast pass at Disney, right, to actually becoming inevitable in time, it'll take you about 6 to 12 months to do this. So I want to also say that what we're about to suggest will take about 6 to 12 months for that to like come to fruition. But if you committed every single day to solving the problems or answering the questions that people actually are asking, about your marketplace, about military purchases, about all of that, you would be pretty inevitable because you would be positioned in the spots to be the answers to the questions. Because today, I'm going to wrap this up, but today in 2026, social media is no longer social media, it's interest based media. What I mean by that is that it's not about who you're socially connected to anymore in the algorithms. It's about getting things put in front of people for what they're searching for or interested in. That's why we all see, I say to my husband, I must be on a different side of the internet than you. And he doesn't see the things that I see because what these algorithms are doing are serving up solutions or purchasable things to what we search for. So if I'm searching for things and I'm that woman who's moving, and you're the one answering the questions, the internet is going to serve you up on a silver platter to me. So to recalibrate this question and just answer it without the context, I think the one thing you should be doing is dedicating your life every single day to waking up every single morning, Saturday through Saturday, and spending 2 minutes a day answering questions that people are actually asking, not what the real estate industry is feeding you to answer, because most people don't care about that stuff. So do the research, answer the questions, and 6 months to a year, you'll be in a better. Now, do I think you'll be an authority? No. But do I think you'll be in a better position? Absolutely.
Yeah, I
Matt,
think
what
you'll
would
be
you say?
I would say it comes down to one thing, right? And that is, what do you want to be known for in the military niche? The who. I think that answering the questions is exactly because it's about providing value, right? When you can provide value based on what you're talking about right there, you are going to start gaining authority. You're going to start gaining mind share. You're going to be talking about the problems, not just the solution. That is so important. But I think it also goes back to the one thing I would do is I would choose one sentence around what do you want to be known for? Who do you want to be actually helping? When you can define that, then that allows you to answer questions to the problems that that person's going to have. So I think that what we're saying is the same thing that, hey, what do I want to be known for in the military niche? I don't want to be a generalist. I want to be a specialist in this one thing, right? Generalists, man, they have, I'm going to say the word that I love to say, ambiguity, right? Specialists have specificity. I know you were so struggling,
Man, I'm overloaded by your pronunciations right now.
right? My pronunciation skills are getting great. But what do I want to be known for in the military niche? And who is that person? Now I can start answering all the questions that help talk about and solve their problems. That's the first step I would take in regards to with both of us. Both the things that we said
Back
is the
together.
first step. They go together. That is how I start gaining authority. That's how I no longer have proximity. I start gaining positioning. That's how I start becoming the best known in that area.
Yeah, something you said I don't want people to breeze by is you said you'll start providing the you'll start like I don't remember how you put this, but what came to mind for me was a reminder. People don't search for solutions, they search for the problem. Like, so when I'm Googling something, I'm not like right now, for example, I'm going to open up a little of my personal life. My hair is shedding so bad. I'm not searching for products to stop my hair from shedding. I'm searching for why is my hair shedding? Right? So there's just a slight difference. It's like a really, really slight edge or slight difference is when you're positioning yourself, as Matt said, and you're figuring out who do you solve problems for, remember to market towards the problem, not the solution that you provide. Most every single agent we see markets their solution. I can XYZ for you. But people aren't searching for that, so they're not finding you. What you should be doing is flipping that and helping people through your content know that you understand their problem. Because if people think you understand their problem, they'll automatically believe you have their solution. That's a quote from Rory Vaden that I believe to be 1,000% true.
Well, it
And
is, and we talk
another
about all the
reason,
time. Yeah, we talk once you identify what the specific niche is, once you identify who you're going to serve, well, then and you say it best all the time. Then you become an ambassador for the problem. You become a billboard for the problem, not the solution, the problem. Because people are going to the Instagram, the tickety talk, the Facebook, the AI, the Google, all those different things, and they're not looking for a solution. They're looking for the cause of a problem, or they're talking about the problem that they're facing. Well, when you identify, you start answering the questions, identify the what and the who, and you start talking about the problem, you will become best known for the person that can solve that problem.
yeah, and I'll be honest with you, what we're talking about this whole 45 minutes or however long we've been going is to help you get out of the army of average. Okay? Because what you guys are doing is not wrong. It's just average. And when everybody is parroting as Matt says, parroting the masses, when everyone is saying the same thing, none of you look any different than anyone else.
Oh, you're
And
so
often,
deluded. When you parrot the masses, you are deluded
as a
so
mofo.
far down, you will always remain invisible.
Yeah, and then at that point, it's a price war. So many of you I see complaining in these Facebook groups about, can you believe this person asked me to do this for 1% commission or whatever? Just remember, all commissions are negotiable, but since we don't work for anyone anymore, we don't have to say that, I don't think. But I want to remind you that when value is misunderstood, price is all there is to compare. So if you're saying the same old shit as everybody else all day, every day, and you guys are all talking about the same thing, I service the military. Well, yeah, you live at Fort Carson. Everyone says the same thing. You don't look any different. But when you get out of the army of average and you do what we're suggesting, you will be standing alone. And my honest feedback for you is it actually won't take that much effort,
No,
because
it won't.
when you start looking at real estate agents marketing the way that we do, because this is what we do for a living, is coach and train around the military space, you realize that almost everyone's saying a slightly different version of the same thing. It's like vanilla ice cream versus vanilla bean versus Madagascar vanilla. But if I hate vanilla, I'm not looking for any of those things, right? I'm looking for chocolate, but nobody's in the chocolate category.
They're
So
all
it's,
all their marketing is proximity. None of
yeah.
it is positioning.
Yeah, so two things I'll say and then we'll let Matt wrap this up. Number one, this isn't that hard. It's really not. It might take you a few hours on an afternoon. Number two, the competition is not fierce. You guys walk around saying real estate competition is fierce. Yes, it is if you're average. If you're elite and you're doing what we're telling you that you should do, competition's almost non-existent. And it's not that difficult. So
Yeah.
with
Hey,
that, Matt, real quick, before you let us go, what was your favorite part of today? If you were listening to this, what would you have taken away that would have actually helped?
I think what I would have taken away today is the realization is that there's the potential, right? And this is, I want to say that there's the potential that I am doing a great job, that I am a good real estate agent, that I'm serving clients, and yet I could still be invisible, right? And just another level of clarity, another level of being seen at the end of this year would grow my business to the next level. And then the next level, because in the next 2 to 3 years, you can go from invisible to inevitable. And so I think the biggest thing is I may be doing a great job, I may be doing a good job, but there is another level to go if I just make the decision, make the
Mhm.
choice to take a few steps to start being seen, whether that's create an asset, whether that's deciding who my avatar is, because it really just comes down to that, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to be inevitable? Do you want to be seen? If the answer is yes, shit, take a step today. We just laid it out for you.
Yeah. Take a pause, go back, rewind. That's the joy of this being recorded. I
That's
love
it.
it. All right. Well, Matt, we are officially out of here with episode 8. We're going to come back and drop some more bombs on people in episode 9. But what do you have to say to the people? Matt's the hype man. He's I won't say what I said the other day, but he's the end pieces to our loaf of bread.
That I am, right? So, hey, here's the deal. Hey, thank you, man. Thank you for coming on and watching Moving the Military. We want you to know that, hey, this is our passion. We are doing this because we have been called, right? And I'm going to say that because I believe it. We have been called based on what we have done to do this to help other people. We are change agents that help other people move beyond. So, hey, thank you for being here. If you liked it, man, share it, watch it again, take some notes because there's a lot of nuggets in here. Hey, and we will see you on episode 9 next week. Peace out.
See you later.